underway. Through Honda they come, just watching out for the red lights, which are still on at the moment. And out they go. Away we go then for 90 minutes of racing in the GAZ Shocks 116 trophy. And they head down to Hatchett's for the first time. It's Sam Camerton-Yates leading. Louis Woodward in the white number 87 car, trying to make his way up the inside of number 5. Anthony Seddon getting through there down at Hatchett's hairpin for the first time. A little bit of a schmozzle further back, but actually all relatively clean, Josh, as they make their way out of Hatchett's through Spitfires and now swooping through the left-hander at Debaney. Sam Camerton-Yates leading from Louis Woodward.
Yeah, that's right. So they got through without real drama then, didn't they, at the start of this 90-minute race. So everybody taking that viewpoint that this is a long race. There's plenty to do. What they've got to look out for during this race is the track limits, because we saw a lot of penalties in that short 20-minute race, and you've got to do 90 minutes here without exceeding track limits. Well, they got through the first corner okay. Now it's gone wrong. Yeah,
it's the 1, 2, 3 car involved, which is that of Johnny Webster, who's going first in that car. Getting back out into the race, though, having lost a little bit of time. Here are the leaders coming through Honda then to complete their first lap. There's a bit of a gap, isn't there, from third back to fourth, where Christopher Godden is trying to keep everybody at bay there. The 3 abreast behind him on the way down to Hatchett's hairpin. It's the 151 car on the inside of Peter Keane, that is. 34 is Toby O'Reilly, and 1 making his way up the inside is Richard Lakey. So he's the one that's got involved, as well as too has the 88 car, which is the car being started by Ross Riley.
Yeah, that got all very busy on the run up towards Hatchett's, but actually they got through the corner without the drama that you may have thought was coming. But Godden, as you say, Christopher Godden, which is Godden Senior, starting this. And we know Jack qualified the car well to get it 4th, but now everybody's trying to take that position away from Chris. But he's doing a good job at this point here to keep what is a very long train of BMW 116Is behind him. And it is 151 then, Peter Keane trying to come through, but I don't think he's able to make that work on this occasion through Carter's curve. He's got a tighter line though through Honda, so is this going to give him the run out of the corner down towards Hatchett's? I don't think it necessarily has, because there's everybody else trying to pass him here. 34 Toby O'Reilly to the outside, 42 Chris Warburton to the inside. And I think actually as they get to the hairpin itself, Keane has got up the inside of Godden for 4th. And does he make the move work when the cars come back into viewpoint? He does. So it is 4th for Peter Keane. He has got himself up ahead of Christopher Godden, but he is now 6 or so seconds behind the top 3, which is Carrington, Yates, Woodward and Seddon.
Yep, so Godden doing a pretty good job here at the moment. There's the O'Reilly car, 34, the Eco Trailers livered machine. 42 is Chris Warburton up on the inside. Thought he might make the move at Brooklands, but that didn't quite work out. It's Ross Riley in the 88 car that's going to stand to benefit here. He gets a good exit out of Brooklands. He's going to be on the inside line for Carter's curve. And it looks like he has gone through. Yes, so number 88, Ross Riley goes through and up into 7th position at the expense of Warburton.
A very sideways car behind them, though. That was Richard Lakey, but he was able to control that slide through the very fast Honda curve that completes the lap here at Pembrey. Battle here for what is 7th position, I think, as the Riley car loses out, I reckon, there to Chris Warburton. So Ross Riley, who had been progressing a little bit, has just lost potentially 7th position in all of that. Just ahead of them, Christopher Godden's also lost another place to that Eco Trailers liveried car of Toby O'Reilly. So O'Reilly now 5th on what is lap 4 of this 90-minute race.
Yep, Sam Camerton-Yates has done the best lap so far, 1:13.20. There we can see Louis Woodward then in 2nd position, number 87, about 2 seconds behind the race leader, but he's got Anthony Seddon in very close proximity to him. in the number 5 car in 3rd position. He's then got a gap of about 5 seconds back to Peter Keane in 4th, but Keane now he's obviously he's got past Christopher Godden. He's making a bit of progress and pulling away from the Godden car, who will have Jack in the car for the later part of the race, and Jack the quicker driver of the two. I'm sure Christopher won't mind me saying that. Down to the hairpin goes Anthony Seddon, number 5 in the grey and orange Anthony Seddon racing car, trying to find the way past the 87 Louis Woodward, but unable to make that work at the moment.
Yeah, it seems that way. Louis Woodward in that BMW M type livery, and of course BMW Motorsport celebrating 50 years of motorsport this year, announcing last week their new prototype car that's going racing. But Woodward here just ahead of Anthony Seddon, and this could kind of become a battle for the win later, you kind of wonder, don't you, with these two cars not getting that success penalty. And at this point, there's nothing that can separate these two drivers. They're both going solo for the full distance, and they seem to have the pace at this stage over the rest. Yeah,
they do indeed. 90-minute race for a single driver is a bit of a test of endurance. I guess it's good that it's not quite as hot, the weather, as it might have been. Make things a little bit easier for these solo drivers, of which there's quite a few this weekend. Seddon and Woodward overlapping there on the way down into Hatchets. Different lines being taken, and net result is not much change to what happened on their way into the corner.
Yeah, that's right. Seddon didn't feature as well, did he, in the sprint race this morning? But now coming to sort of the proper race, the 90-minute race, as is the case with the usual races for the 116 trophy. He's right there with Louis Woodward. These two in 4 seconds, by the way, behind Sam Carrington-Yates, who does still lead the race. Now, Peter Keane, since he got into 4th, is starting to close them down. He was 0.8 of a second quicker than Woodward and Seddon on the recent lap. He's 3 seconds behind them. So Peter Keane could become a factor in all of this. There he is, I think.
Yeah.
In the 151 car. Here we're getting a good view of his BMW now.
Yes, I've not seen too much of Peter Keane so far before this weekend, I don't think, but clearly going pretty well this weekend. And good to see a number of new drivers coming into 116 trophy and into racing more generally. Peter's obviously got some experience under his belt, no novice class on the back of his car. But I have to say, not a name that I've come across before too many times. There he is, chasing after the top, or the second and third place cars. Woodward, number 87, and 5, Anthony Seddon. Sometimes that car of Anthony Seddon shared with Alan Caulfield, but Seddon driving solo this weekend, we understand. Keane is about 2.35 seconds behind third place at the moment. He's now 6 seconds very nearly clear of Warburton. Christopher Godden has now sort of tumbled back several places compared to the 4th place he was in the earlier stages, back down to 9th place. He was just ahead of Richard Phillips as he crossed over the line that time.
Looks like Peter Keane's had success here at Pembrey in the past in the Citroen C1 Endurance Series, and now he's moved to rear-wheel drive with the BMWs and going well. That car that went out of shot there was a bit wide, kicking up the dust. That's the car that's running just behind Peter Keane, I think, Chris Warburton. Then for 7th, you've got, for 6th I should say, Toby O'Reilly, Richard Lakey and the late breaking Andrew Woodbine, who's going to run out of road just a touch there.
Yep.
So he in 8th in the AWE liveried car, stays in that position after all. And then Christopher Godden is up next, isn't he, in 9th. Still with a bit of a train of cars going on behind him.
Peter Keane on the previous lap lost a couple of tenths to Anthony Seddon, actually, 1:14.05, so a bit slower than he had been before. But we'll just look at this scrap going on here for 7th and 8th position. It's making its way out of Brooklands towards Carter's, and it looks like Woodbine might make a position here, might get up to 7th place. Yes, he's done it. He's through on the inside at Carter's, and so number 12 goes through. Another new fastest lap for Sam Carrington Yates has just been set. It's a 1:13.10 now. Obviously yesterday's qualifying session was wet, so not a representative lap time. There is a 5-second penalty being applied to yeah, they've taken the numbers off the board already, I think, before we could work out who that's going to, but we'll hopefully get that appearing on our screen as well.
Number 3, Jeremy Woodgate,
okay.
I've got here.
Yes, there we go.
So this is already happening 8 laps into the race, Ian.
Yes.
There's going to be probably another 70 or so laps, isn't there?
Well, closer to it.
So drivers really have got to keep in the track limits. We've already seen today one driver being black flagged and brought into the pit lane because they weren't respecting track limits. Yeah. In the previous 116 trophy race, 5 or 6 drivers I think got penalised. So actually, success in this race, I think there's a car running wide there. He's going to be keeping the car on the circuit in the defined race circuit, and not picking up a penalty, which will affect your race.
Yep. So within the white lines or the curbs, any wheel over the edge of a white line or a curb if there is one at that particular point, that is exceeding track limits, and that is where you'll start to attract the attention of the observers around the circuit, who will report drivers perhaps going over that. So there, for example, you're allowed to use the red and blue bit, but you're not allowed to use the green bit.
Some drivers were obeying that particular corner, some maybe less so. Second and third still together. They're 8 seconds behind Sam Carrington Yates now, and Sam has really been the form driver in this category for a few seasons now, and he's driven away from these two, Louis Woodward and Anthony Seddon, but Sam Carrington Yates has this 30-second success penalty to serve at the first pit stop. So that at this point will put him a long way down the order in the car that he shares with Mark Sullivan. So in realistic terms, therefore, this is really the battle for the lead of the race. We were watching there, Louis Woodward and Anthony Seddon, who were almost overlapping out of Honda curve, but by the time they get down to Hatchets, they're realigned. However, Peter Keane's almost with them now. They're in 4th place. We mentioned he was about 3 seconds behind a few laps ago. That's just a second now. So Peter Keane, new to this series, is going really well. It has to be said there, in 4th position.
Yeah, we've got Christopher Godden, I think, losing another position there down at Hatchets. I think Richard Phillips going through in the number 44 car. So we're not far away from the pit lane window being open, and drivers starting to make their mandatory stops. And the fact that you're not allowed now to take your mandatory stops during a safety car period, that makes the race a little bit more strategically interesting, I think, in that you're not sort of sitting there thinking, well, we'll see if a safety car comes along and then we'll make our pit stop. You've got to think about the race, imagining safety cars just don't exist. They're not a thing. Yeah, the
only thing that you may try and do if you've got a clever team boss is if you think a safety car might come out, actually if you're watching the live stream or see a car go off, if you can get into the pit lane before the safety car does come out onto the circuit, you should, I guess, be allowed to continue that stop. Anyway, hopefully this race goes incident free and we get...
there aren't any safety cars.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's... can't be promised upon. Another driver who might come involved in this is Chris Warburton, who I don't think we've seen again much in this series before. He's 5th, and he is lapping quicker than the 3 cars ahead of him. So he's catching Louis Woodward, Anthony Seddon and Peter Keane. So we've got now 4 cars separated by about 4 seconds. So where we thought it was perhaps going to be just Woodward and Seddon, there are more drivers coming into this, all solo drivers behind Sam Carrington Yates and Mark Sullivan. There is Chris Warburton, so he is going really well in the 42 car, the driver from Oxford, and he is going to be one to watch during the course of this race. Here is 2nd, 3rd and 4th all together on the race circuit. They've just lapped, I think, the first of the cars during the course of this race. And they come then down into the right-hander at Honda curve. Seddon hooking up the inside. Woodward feeling the need to defend off of the corner. And they go across the line where they can see, now that we're 15 minutes into this race, the pit open board being shown. So drivers can make their pit stops if they wish at this stage of the race. And for the next hour of the race, they can come in. So it's a big pit window to make these 2 pit stops. So 87 Woodward, 5 Seddon, 151 Keane, all being caught by 42 Warburton, who on the last lap was the best part 2 seconds quicker than these 3. It might have been because they had that lap traffic to deal with. And we know Pembrey, not the easiest circuit to overtake at parts, so if you get caught behind a slower car, you can lose time.
The 89 car is into the pit lane with some damage there as well. That's the Freddie Tatham car. He was in 18th, or is now showing on the timing screen in 18th position. The pit lane window is open though, so this should count as one of the mandatory stops. You'll see how the car's been parked at a 45-degree angle into the pit lane there, and that's another requirement for the pit stops. Another car in behind, that is the 22 car of Richard Roundell, again parked at 45 degrees in. That's to avoid any potential incidents in the pit lane with cars trying to enter and exit too quickly. And that's the 5 car in from 3rd position, just in the back of shot there. That's Anthony Seddon. So that's the first of our sort of leading contenders into the pit lane, and there's a few more starting to head down pit lane now.
So I think you were absolutely right, Ian. With this new rule change, it's very much changing the tactics. We don't normally see a load of pit stops at the beginning of the pit window. Usually it's further to the end. And a big chunk of cars have pitted at the first opportunity, including one of our contenders, Anthony Seddon.
Yeah, Andrew Woodbine's in as well. All solo drivers, notably, so it doesn't really matter. You're not trying to balance, oh, I need to get so many minutes and he needs to get so many minutes. They can pretty much do as they please from that point of view.
Yeah, there's not a set number of minutes a driver has to do in a multiple driven car, but it's more about sharing the track time in those instances. Another car's been given a 5-second penalty, which is number 40, I believe, which is the car started by Tom Laurie Fussy. So a couple of drivers now already with a penalty to be added on at the end of the race. 14 laps had just been done by the race leader, Sam Carrington-Yates, as Anthony Seddon goes out 1 lap down. So you lose a lap in these 60-second pit stops. Also into the pits, one of the 2 driver-driven cars, the Ross Riley and Gary Taylor car, that is. I suspect Ross Riley will stay in, and then their changeover later, perhaps closer to the halfway distance. So the overall order, therefore, has been shaken up a bit. Here's the leader, though, Sam Carrington-Yates, 15 seconds clear now of Louis Woodward, who's got Peter Keane and Chris Warburton with him. So he's lost Anthony Seddon behind after Seddon pitted. I wonder if Seddon felt he was being held up by Louis Woodward there, because he was behind him for a long time.
Yes, possibly so. What have we got? 71 minutes left to go. I think the Chris Warburton is the Chris Warburton that did Saxmax back in the late 2000s, and I think he's done some MG racing more recently, just judging by pictures on social media. So Chris Warburton, I think, is familiar with the 750 Motor Club paddock, having raced in Saxmax a decade or so ago.
He was a front runner in that, wasn't he, or pretty high up the order?
Just trying to get the details of his Saxmax career up in front of me while we're talking.
But he's going well here. And he's just got past Peter Keane. Well, that's because Keane is pitted, so another of the front runners is in. But he's done a lap time here, Ian, of a 1 minute 13.37, which is only a quarter of a second slower than Sam Carrington-Yates.
Yeah.
Warburton qualified 7th in the dampness yesterday, but now a dry circuit, and he's going really well.
He was 3rd in the 2010 championship, had a win in both 2010 and in 2009 in Saxmax. So this is the view of the car streaming through to Bainey Bend and the crossing.
He's making a comeback a bit like Johnny then, after many years away.
Absolutely, yes. Inspired possibly by that move.
Here he is, chasing Louis Woodward for what is now 2nd position. So he's had 2 cars disappear in front of him to the pits. and battles behind. The Christopher Godden train is continuing, isn't it, a little bit? Now it's for 7th position. You've got Chris Noakes, Richard Phillips, Jeremy Woodgate, all in this queue, I think. You see there the RL Motorsport Services car of Richard Phillips in 44.
Have we mentioned the Treble 7 car in the pit lane?
No.
We have now for them, because Sam Carrington-Yates is there. Well, he did say he was going to do 20 minutes and then hand over to Mark Sullivan. And there is the Treble 7 car in the pit lane.
Yeah, it looks like he's strapping Mark into the car, so that might be someone for Johnny, if he can hear us, to grab a word with. Sam Carrington-Yates, a very good first stint, but of course they've got this 30-second extra pit stop here to do. Yeah. So therefore we'll lose the lead.
Yeah, so this is going to take a 90-second stop all in then, with the mandatory 60 seconds and the 30-second penalty. So they've got plenty of time to do everything they need to do. In the background of shot there, you can see Jack Gordon waiting for his turn in the number 71 car, which is back up into 6th position now as a result of other pit stops ahead of him. So that's Sam Carrington-Yates. The gloves are quite literally off. And a few words of encouragement and advice to Mark Sullivan before he goes back out into the race. It'll be interesting to see where the Treble 7 car is going to come home in this one.
Yes, and we'll see how Mark Sullivan gets on, because as Sam Carrington-Yates kind of alluded to, Mark Sullivan hasn't done the longest of stints in these 116 trophy races in the past. But it sounds like he's going to today.
Yeah, of course, it's always possible that Sam could get back in for the final stint. We'll have to wait and see, though. But for the moment, he's getting back out into the race. There's the 40 car then on screen now. That's the 11th position car. Tom Laurie Fossey in that car at the moment. It is a car that has a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits, as well as the Woodgate car, the number 3 car, a little bit further up the order.
Peter Keane came out 10 seconds ahead of Anthony Seddon after they both pitted.
Okay.
I think.
And they're in 13th and 15th at the moment.
Oh, not.
Meanwhile, Chris Warburton's leading the race. There's the 1 car of Richard Lakey, the RL Motor Services machine.
So Warburton's got past Louis Woodward on the road then?
Yes, he has. That's a good point. And they're just passing our commentary box now with that change certainly cemented, and the gap having gone out a little bit now from 0.4 of a second as well, I suggest. So
something that Anthony Seddon wasn't able to achieve in sort of 10 or 12 laps early in the race, sitting behind. So
there's Christopher Godden, so he is 5th, and this is Anthony Seddon unlapping himself. Unlapping himself, isn't he, from the 71 car?
Yes, you lose over a lap, but how he has lost 10 seconds to Peter Keane is a slight mystery at this stage.
Could just be the in and out of the pit lane, a bit more cautious maybe than Peter Keane, or maybe Keane was a bit not cautious enough, who knows?
Well, that's sort of the question, isn't it, whether it was that Seddon was too slow in the pits or had an error around it, or if Peter Keane had been too quick. But it's more likely that you're going to be slower, isn't it? Not very often that we see a mistake with a short stop or whatever. Although it's quite a long pit entry here, not quite sure where the speed starts.
No, it's speed limit.
Yeah. So you could, if you're sort of aggressive into the pit lane, you could gain some time. There's a very sideways car there behind these two, and I'm not sure if it went off. Yeah, it did. So that was Richard Phillips out of 7th place.
It did. The 41 car's been into the pits and has gone back out again. So that was David Lawrence who started that car. So it's either going to be Yayan Evans or Freddie Blackman at the wheel now of the number 41 car. So 24 minutes or so into this race, coming up towards 1/3 distance of this 90-minute GAZ Shocks 116 trophy race. There's the 12 car of Andrew Woodbine, so he's in 14th at the moment, having made his stop. But let's head down to the pit lane, and I think that Sam Carrington-Yates is with Johnny Palmer.
I thought one of the best places to start was the car that was setting the pace in the initial stages of this 90-minute race, and Sam Carrington-Yates, that was you. You managed to get a fairly decent lead ahead of the first pit stop.
Yeah, Anthony and Louis were having a little bit of a battle together, so it gave us a bit of a chance to get away and try and build a gap for Mark. Mark's going to do a little bit more time in the car today, so needed to build up as much as possible.
And Mark, are we expecting lap times to not be quite to your level, without wishing to be rude?
He's a couple of seconds off in testing, yeah, but he was going really well in testing around here, really consistent time. So if he can put that together, then we'll hopefully, with a 30-second penalty, it's pretty difficult. We've obviously done a minute and a half stop there instead of a minute, so that makes it almost a sort of a game over sort of situation, and we just try and do whatever we can.
And then it's the idea that you get back in to bring it home for the last however many minutes are left.
Yeah, so we'll see what he can do. He's got 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long he can last. That's not an innuendo. And hopefully I'll get in at the end and go like mad.
Proverbial clappers. What do you like in terms of being out of the car and having to observe rather than being in control?
Yeah, that's quite weird. That is a bit different, but I'm looking forward to it. Mark needs the time in the car, and he was really consistent here in testing, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, and it'll be a bit of a challenge and a lot of fun at the end of the race as well for me.
Got to conserve the car throughout as well, and it needs to be in a suitable state for you to take it over later.
Hopefully.
We
Hopefully.
wish you well in the treble 7. Well done. Thank you so far.
Thanks, Johnny. So great to hear there from Sam Carrington-Yates, and it sounds like a slightly different strategy going forward than what possibly was talked about earlier. Here is Mark Sullivan, and he's in 15th position, but of course has made one of those pit stops. The car behind him, Richard Lakey, is battling for position with, so they're both on the same lap. And a better exit to the corner for Lakey, and he's got 209 coming with him, which I think is still driven by William Abraham. And Lakey's going to go through, and Abraham's going to follow him, I think. So Mark Sullivan did lose a couple of places there. So that would drop him to P17 after 20 or so laps of racing here at Pembrey for the third race of the season for the GAZ Shocks 116 trophy. And working his way then through the S's is Mark Sullivan. Meanwhile, up front, Chris Warburton still leads by the best part of a couple of seconds over Louis Woodward, so it's 42 from 87. And then into the pits comes 44 Richard Phillips now. Third is 34 Toby O'Reilly. Fourth is 57 Toby Partridge. Fifth is 71 Christopher Godden. And sixth is number 4 Chris Noakes. The best of the pit stoppers is in 11th position overall, which is 151 Peter Keane. So already more than half of the competitors have pitted as we come up to 1/3 distance. Peter Keane is still 10 seconds clear of Anthony Seddon, and then the third of the stoppers is Andrew Woodbine. At the pit lane then, after that stop, goes Richard Phillips, and we see there number 71 Christopher Godden in 5th position, has behind him on the road and 4th position Chris Noakes. They've both completed 22 laps so far and working lap 23. Behind them is one of the early pit stoppers, Andrew Woodbine, 3rd of the stopped cars in the 12 car. But he's trying to work his way through so he can run his own pace. But at the moment he is stuck behind those cars, who he is of course 1 lap down on. But here then is the 5th and 6th, Godden and Noakes. Christopher Godden driving that car that was previously a guest car, as Ian mentioned earlier. Was driven by Martin Donnelly, former Grand Prix driver on an occasion at Snetterton a couple of years ago. And Chris Noakes is still chasing another car into the pit lane now. Is 123, which is the car that was started by Johnny Webster that he shares with George Adshed. So they're going through their 60-second stop now. That car was a little bit further down the order, I think. as this 5th place battle continues through the S's, being headed by Christopher Godden, who's about 40 seconds behind the race leader now, Chris Warburton. And they work lap number 24 of this race.
So, in terms of those on the timing tower now, how many places do we have to go down to find people that have made their stop? Is it the top 9 that haven't, we think?
Yeah, that's right.
And everyone else has?
Yeah, and we just heard from Sam Carrington-Yates, who now says he will be getting back into the car for the end of the race.
Right.
But he said probably just for the last 15 or 20 minutes or so.
Okay, we'll see about that.
Yeah, indeed.
It does mean that we've still got Chris Godden out there at the moment in the number 71 car which is on screen.
And he just lost 5th, just as you said that, to Chris Noakes. But yeah, Godden is going for a longer stint, because Jack Godden's tended to do most of the race there as well, hasn't he?
This is Tom Murray-Fussy into the pits. He'll hand over either to Tom Wood or Mark Davis. A 3-driver effort this in the number 40 car, one of the 40-40 racing efforts. And it's great that the 116 trophy allows for this setup where drivers can, or teams can share the driving 3 ways if they wish. And a good, affordable way, therefore, to get into racing and amortise the costs over several of you.
See the Ross Riley car going through there. He started racing in the 116 trophy a couple of seasons ago and has stuck with it. And he shares that car with Gary Taylor, and they are running in 16th position. Just behind them on the road is Liam Brazitz, but he's got a 15-second penalty already, only 1/3 of the way into this race, for multiple exceeding track limits during the course of this race, so that is far from ideal.
Who's just coming into the pit lane now? It is Andrew Woodbine, and this is for his 2nd stop, so he's already in that number 12 car, made 2 stops therefore, getting them in nice and early. Let's give you a rundown on the orders. We've just gone past the hour mark. It's 42 Chris Warburton that leads, 87 Louis Woodward is 2nd, 3rd is number 34 Toby O'Reilly, 4th is 57, that's the car of Toby Partridge, 5th is number 4 Chris Noakes, 6th is the 71 car of Christopher and Jack Godden, 7th is number 3 Jeremy Woodgate, 8th is number 220, which is the car started by Simon Fox, shared with Austin Browser. As the 87 car comes into the pit lane from 2nd place, you can see in the background there. 151 Peter Keane is 9th, number 5 Anthony Seddon is 10th. We're into the drivers that have made their first stops now. 209 is the car of the Abrahams. Has that been in? I'm not sure that it has. William Abraham and Peter Abraham. 12th is Richard Lakey. Now a 10-second penalty going out to car 3 as well. So that's the other car that already got 5 seconds, Jeremy Woodgate, now getting another 10 to make it 15.
Top 2 are into the pits actually, Ian, because Chris Warburton came in on that same lap as Louis Woodward.
Yes, so he did, yeah.
So Toby O'Reilly in 34 has taken the lead, who's only in his 2nd ever race, just debuted at Alton Park last month, but has done track days before. There is the Abraham car. I think it has pitted. It was one of those really early stoppers. And they're running quite well up the stopper list, really, in 11th overall. But certainly, as you suggested, there is a different strategy going into this race with these new rules.
Yeah. I think it's actually probably a bit more interesting, isn't it? Rather than just everyone piling in whenever there's a safety car, which is a bit predictable when it happens. It also means you're sort of constantly waiting for it, then possibly you end up making 2 stops fairly late on in the window as well. So I think this is more interesting, actually.
And it might mean that things are a bit more obvious what's going on earlier as well. And it's a bit probably safer in the pits as well, not to have everybody in the pits at the same time.
Agreed. So all round good. Louis Woodward's got ahead of Chris Warburton in the pit stops then. He's back ahead now on our timing screens. And yeah, I can just see them down there at Spitfires now out of the window. And yeah, that's certainly the running order, 87 ahead of 42, with all of the other 5 cars ahead of them yet to make the first of their mandatory stops. So they'll have to, well, they don't have to do that soon. They've still got another 40 minutes to make, 40 minutes, he said, using his maths degree, to make 2 stops. Let's head down to the pit lane. Johnny Palmer's down there once again. Hope you got this time, Johnny.
Move to the other end of the pit lane now, and to team 40, 3 drivers here. So, I mean, 2 stops, you should be able to do that fairly comfortably, Tom Laurie Fossey. But was that the stint that you expected to do? Did the team call you in earlier, later?
No, as expected, that's half an hour, so splitting it fairly between the 3 of us. It was a bit more frantic a half hour than I was expecting. Had a slight dink to the back from someone, don't know who, so did a bit of grass cutting. But other than that, pretty happy with it. It was autumn start, so I think I was up to 12th at one point. But we don't have the pace to be 12th, to be honest, so slowly but steadily I was being nibbled fairly by most, but yeah, someone decided that they could do with me out of the way a little bit earlier than I'd hoped. So after that, I ended up in quite a quiet area of the track, so I was just trying to knuckle down and actually learn this circuit properly and get some good times in.
That's a nice idea, certainly. How do these cars take to a little bit of punishment, the odd knock here and there? No discernible difference?
No, I radioed in, because obviously in the cockpit you can't see anything, and with a hands device you can't even really turn to left or right. So I was shouting at the pit crew to tell me whether they wanted me to come in. I didn't physically hit anything other than the dink from the other car, so felt all right. And actually, I think I put in my fastest times fairly soon after that because it felt all right. But yeah, it was. They can take some abuse, but equally there's a limit. I think particularly our front tyres, I might have been a little bit hard on them. But we'll see. We'll see if the other 2 guys start moaning that it's understeering, and I guess that's all my fault.
Mark Davies taking over. Did you offer any advice to what had happened in the opening stint, or just keep quiet?
Yeah, I just shut up and got out, to be honest. He's very good as well, so he'll just find his pace. He's actually usually better on the brakes than I am, so we'll see if I've cooked them, and if not, then we expect some decent times from him.
Exciting to watch that car. We'll see how you get on. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
So thank you very much to Johnny Palmer down there in the pit lane. Good to hear from the Team 40 car, which is now in 19th position. There it is on screen now. We're seeing it in the window as well, in the inset, while we're hearing from Tom Laurie Fossey, and they are ahead of Andrew Woodbine in the running order. But Woodbine, of course, has made 2 stops, whereas they've only made the 1 so far. The other drivers still competing in this race are the 2 other teams, 22 Richard Roundel and 41, which is the other 40-40 Racing entry, which has got 3 drivers, the David Lawrence, Ryan Evans and Freddie Blackman car.
There is Andrew Woodbine, the only of the cars that have made 2 pit stops, so he's obviously a long way down the overall order, but he will progress forward if he continues to have a clean race here. Quite a lot of cars together on the circuit actually around him.
And the leaders are nose to tail, or not the leaders, the drivers that are the 2 likely leaders. When the pit stops all shake out, they can tell you that they're heading down towards Hatchett's hairpin. Lou Woodward and the 42 car of Chris Warburton, and it is for the moment still Woodward ahead of Warburton. We're watching there the treble 7 car now being driven by Mark Sullivan. He's in 13th position at the moment. And just behind him on the road is the Woodbine car that has made 2 stops already. Those are the two cars that are probably going to shake out battling for the lead, Josh.
Yeah, it seems that way at this stage. Oh, there's a big accident, I'm afraid, out of the final corner. Out of shot, Andrew Woodbine, who we were just watching actually, is just slammed into the pit wall. So therefore, I suspect there might be a caution coming in this race shortly. But this battle continues on the road between Louis Woodward and Chris Warburton. The good news is that Andrew Woodbine, as you can see there, is out of the car. What is left of the car, because
yes.
The front of the car has been rather dearranged, but he's out of the car. He's climbed over the pit wall all by himself, so that's the good news out of all of this. And one of the Warburton's pitted, I think, has he?
Yeah, the Warburton car's into the pit, so that's for a second stop then. Yellow flag's out, safety car out, unsurprisingly.
So did he get into the pits before that safety car board went out?
Well, certainly before the safety car got out onto the track. Yeah, it's a question of where. I'm not sure how well defined under the safety car is, because the safety car wasn't on track. What does this regulation say? It says teams may not make either of their 2 mandatory pit stops under safety car conditions, which implies to me that's when the yellow flags and safety car boards come out rather than when the safety car enters the track. But when he entered the pit lane, possibly all right.
Yeah, we shall see. He's running one of the 40-40 racing cars, which I
Yes.
don't think we've really seen battle for a win before.
No.
Because usually it's got novices in and people
Yeah.
that are getting into it. Okay, Chris Warburton, I don't think he's raced much recently, but
No.
we know he's a quick driver. So it's showing these 40-40 cars are well prepared. They are cars that can run as a winning car.
The penalty for making a pit stop under safety car conditions, if that is indeed what you do, is a 2-lap penalty applied after the race. So it's something that will not be sort of visible on track. The rescue crew on hand, they're in the pit lane to just check over Andrew Woodbine after he's hit his car's hit the pit wall there.
Although we should say here at Pembrey there is an Armco barrier actually in front
Yes.
of the pit wall itself.
Yes,
so
it's not just the concrete wall.
No, that's right. So that's a good initiative, isn't it, by
Yes.
Pembrey here? I don't know how long that's been the case, but to have the Armco in front of the wall itself, because otherwise that would have been a much bigger accident.
Yeah, absolutely
There,
right.
has been quite a few Larry moments out of Honda curve during the course of today. He kind of wondered if that was going to happen at some point.
It's certainly not unprecedented to have cars hit the wall there at Pembrey. Certainly I've seen that happen, I'm sure, in 750 Motor Club meetings before as well.
It's a very fast corner. Where you're
is.
right on the edge of adhesion. It's been very exciting to watch cars come out of that corner, it has to be said.
But it is easy just to lose it, and then, you know, it's not very far.
Did
across
Chris
the circuit.
Warburton get out the pits back still on the lead lap? I think he probably did. So that, depending which way that goes,
Yeah.
that is probably a race-defining moment.
Well, this was the whole point you were making, is, you know, actually the trick will be to be cognizant of what's going on and to time your pit stop before the safety car comes out if you think there might be one.
Yeah, this is a bit similar sort of to American racing with IMSA or IndyCar. You quite often them here, you don't want to get caught the wrong side of a safety car.
Yeah.
So therefore you make your pit stop as early as you possibly can. Because of that, although there you can make then the pit stop later in the safety car, but it's the same kind of principle where you'd rather make the pit stop before the safety car rather than after it.
You just saw the yellow Pembrey recovery vehicle heading round to the scene of the incident to try and hook up the car. They'll need to try and work out what the best way to recover this car is from up against the barrier. Hopefully it will be in a position where they can sort of at least lift the front of the car up and tow it away.
I guess the other thing is if it's dropped any fluid on the road.
I was just thinking that as well, yes.
There was a lot of steam and smoke perhaps when after the car did hit the pit wall.
So
Hit
that,
the
if there is,
Armco barrier.
yeah, if there is, then they'll need to get that dressed with cement dust or similar. But for the moment, we're behind the safety car. We're pretty much at the half race distance here, just slightly more than 45 minutes of the 90 to go. There's the 71 car, still being driven by Christopher Godden, isn't it? So he's not been in to hand that over yet. Oh, possibly that's not the case as we're going down now, because we'll find out who Johnny Palmer's got to speak to.
Very distracted because I'm trying to work out when we're going to go back to green flag or not. I was just had a word with you, Chris Godden, about whether that was a neatly timed stop. You just handed over to Jack, and then within 30 seconds, the safety car came out.
Yeah, can't plan that, of course. So yeah, it'll be a miracle. So all being well, that's done us a favour. But we'll wait and see. I think the driver's all right. He's out of the car, isn't he? I believe. So good. Yeah, we'll see how it pans out.
Recovery well underway. I didn't actually see how that incident panned out, but there have been a few close moments. I've chatted to 2 or 3 drivers now, and I mean, it was a real dice at the start.
Yeah, it's quite good fun out there. It's the first time I've probably had a chance to properly race people, to be honest. I'm usually stuck in the car at the end of the race. So no, it was very good fun. It's a good track, and they've just red flagged it. Yeah,
That changes things.
it does change things a bit. Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah, so enjoying myself. The track seemed to have less grip than it did when we were practicing on Friday. It's either that or we wore the tyres out on Friday, the only set we've got. So, yeah, it's entertaining, certainly.
So you actually missed the terrible day of weather then, because it was obviously hammering it down yesterday, but you didn't do any running then.
We qualified in the wet yesterday. So, yeah, but yeah, the tyres survived that one, thankfully. Yeah, Jack qualified the car 4th, which is yeah, pretty good. So happy with that.
So presumably now, from a race official's point of view, they're going to have to dictate how long there is to go and where in the window you're allowed to drive, do a pit stop up until, unless we assume it is 15 minutes out from the checkered flag.
Well, we were told it was 15 minutes out of the checkered flag in the briefing this morning, but I guess if the race time is cut down, then that could change. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
How big is your team to utilise this strategy, to tweak it here and there? Is it just you and Jack, or are there additions to that?
It's me and Jack, and we've also got Jack used to race against a lad, and we've got his parents here helping us out. Excellent. So yeah, it's 3 years. That was karting. Haven't seen them for 3 years, and they've turned up today to give us a hand. So that's good. Thanks, Kirsty. So.
You may well be very grateful of that support. We'll keep Jack in mind, because he's going to have to do some sitting in the car for the time being, and presumably you'll be on the radio to him at times too.
We can't afford radios.
No,
We're definitely on a budget. There's no data logging, no radios, so just hand signals.
The old simple stuff often it can be better than the technology that is often rife for going wrong. Chris, congratulations so far. It's been a good drive in the hands of Jack Godden currently, but as we said, now into a red flag. So what happens next?
Yep, so red flags, and Johnny Palmer posing the question that we'll all be asking, what happens next? We had a red flag in the previous round as well at Alton Park. That came a little bit earlier in the day, early in the race, and we had a 60-minute restart, and there was different rules put in around the mandatory pit stops. But now we've got just over 45 minutes to go when the red flag came out, so whether it'll be a sort of 45-minute restart or possibly slightly shorter than that, but we've still got, in some cases, 2 stops to make, some cases no stops to make, and most have got 1 stop left to make. So it will be something for the officials to decide. Obviously, we would always rather not stop an endurance race like this, where there's pit stops and that can cause a problem. But I think it was just unavoidable. The recovery crew got there, had a look at what was needed, realised, we're not just going to be able to pick this up, in a straightforward way and tow it away. It's going to need a little bit more intervention. I think there is fluid down there as well. That's the 750 Motor Club rescue crew are now helping to deal with. So it is going to be a few minutes, I think, before this race can get back underway for the GAZ Shocks 116 Trophy, which races these days in association with Motorsport News. So you'll be able to read Carl McKellar's report about the 116 Trophy race as a special box in Motorsport News later this week. And at Silverstone next month, they're having a special 100-mile race as part of that arrangement backed by Motorsport News for the 116 Trophy cars. Really? So safety car is going to come in, but you've got then cars following it into the pit lane, some of them, which is entirely predictable. Most of them are staying out, it has to be said, for the moment. The couple that are coming in, try and pick up who those are in a moment. But Josh, what's going on down at Hatchett's?
Well, this is the battle for the lead then, between Toby O'Reilly and Chris Noakes, it would seem. So they make their way through. 3rd is Louis Woodward. 4th is Anthony Seddon. And this is because Peter Keane has come in, one of the front runners from before. And the other car that is pitted is the Simon Fox and Austin Broutzer car. But the Peter Keane car is particularly important because he was a front runner earlier on. So we work this then the second lap from what was a safety car restart, as we saw there. There's 44, Richard Phillips, out there in the RL Motor Services car.
Jack Godden just going through shot in the number 71 car as well, having taken over from his father Christopher, so he'll drive to the end of the race whenever that comes. There's 87 Louis Woodward then, and he's now got 5 Anthony Seddon behind him. So this strikes me as a significant battle potentially.
Yeah, so these are currently 3rd and 4th. Make that 2nd and 3rd. Has Chris Noakes come into the pits? Yes, he has,
yeah.
So number 4 has pitted. So this certainly would suggest that there's one more pit stop to do. There's more cars coming in, I see. But yeah, 2nd and 3rd, Louis Woodward and Anthony Seddon. Now 2 seconds behind Toby O'Reilly, that driver we were talking about, who's only in his 2nd race.
There's the 220 car going back out into the race then. And the other car that's just come in then is the 1, 2, 3 car. So that's the second stop, isn't it, for the Webster and GAZ team. So did they change drivers at the first stop, did we think that they did? 'Cause it was Webster that started the car.
Yeah, it looked like we're changing drivers now, though, didn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, not sure which way around.
Okay, so we've got the 87 and the 5 car there, Louis Woodward and Anthony Seddon doing battle here on the road. And these cars are going to be 2 cars that are pretty evenly matched as well, as we saw in the early part of the race too. Woodward sweeping his way through Honda there, and Seddon's got a good run on him though, and will challenge on the way up to the Hatchett's hairpin. We're watching the cars just behind. That's the 57 car of Toby Partridge. Behind him is the 209 car, now being driven by Will Abraham, as we heard from Paul Abraham a moment ago. So they're battling away down into Hatchett's hairpin once again.
Yeah, that's right. So no change there. What about the second? Well, Anthony Seddon ahead. So he did get ahead of Louis Woodward, who seemed to run a little wide at Honda on that previous lap. So change there for second. Woodward's car was all over the place there, over the bumps, was really bouncing around in the 87 car. So change of driver here for 88. So Ross Riley getting out of the car, and Gary Taylor gets into the car. So that is occurring down there in the pit lane currently. But Toby O'Reilly, his lead is starting to be closed in on by Anthony Seddon, and they're making their way to the end of the 4th lap. But it's still O'Reilly in the Eco Traders car that leads, but not by very much, as they complete their 4th lap, Ian.
Yeah, so it's going to be 35 minutes from when they started, which was 5 minutes or so ago. So I still think it's 15 minutes from the end of the race when the pit lane window closes. The aim will be to aggregate the times from the 2 parts of the race to make some sense. So what we won't see here is the result as it stands. So what we see on circuit will need to be added together to what happened in the first part of the race to come up with the result.
We should have took a picture of the position, shouldn't we, or something?
We should have done.
So we may not get post-race interviews, I guess, from this, because there may not be a result out at that stage.
Well, Johnny can possibly just chat to some people he meets down in the pit lane, as he has been doing for the last half an hour, really. That would certainly be very welcome. The 57 car in at the moment, then that's Toby Partridge, and 41 in, so that's the driver to put their 3rd driver in now. So either Johan Evans or Freddie Blackman getting into the 41 car, one of the 40-40 racing machines. There's an interesting scrap, because you've got Jack Godden there in the number 71 car up the inside of 777. So that's for position on the screens for 7th place in this second part of the race. And in between them is the 42 car as well, a driver who could be in for a win here potentially. That's Chris Warburton, because of course he's made 2 stops. Where is he on the screens? He's 9th on the screens at the moment. He just made that 2nd stop just before, we think, the safety car was initially called.
Yeah, if he doesn't have to stop again, he's certainly in a good position, Chris Warburton. Jack Godden, we just saw there, he's the quickest person on this second start. He's done a 1:31 in the 71 car, and Chris Warburton seems to be sort of going with him at this stage. So I guess equally, everybody out here has got to push as hard as they can, because they probably don't really know what position they're going to be in.
Well, that's it. This is, in a way, pure racing. You've just got to push hard, do as many laps as you can in the time available. And as simple as that, really. Not really worry too much about the competitors that are around you. Just get your head down and drive quickly and see where that leaves you at the end of the race.
And of course, aggregate results were certainly a thing of the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
When there were red flags, that was quite a usual thing. It hasn't happened much lately, I don't think.
No. So that's the aim. That's the hope that we'll be able to aggregate the results to decide the winner. That's the 40 car then. So that's going to be Tom Wood getting into that car for the final 3rd of the race. Tom Laurie Fussy having started. Mark Davis done the middle stint. Obviously, a stint for him that's been sadly disrupted by the safety car and the red flag.
Yeah, that's right. There's Mark Sullivan still, isn't it, in 777,
Yeah.
7th in this part of the race. And he was passed, wasn't he, recently, I think, by Gooden and Warburton, who we were seeing. So they make their way through here on what is the 7th lap of this restarted race. Here is Anthony Seddon, who leads this part of the race by a second over Louis Woodward. And so they've got past Toby O'Reilly, who's pitted, I reckon, in 34.
Yes, he did.
So therefore, these are the leaders of this stage of the race. So the Anthony Seddon racing car, driven by the man himself, up through Honda Curve to complete another lap of this. But Louis Woodward going with him as they come up across the line then to complete the 7th lap of this part of the race. So 25 minutes still on the clock.
There's going to be a stop and go penalty for somebody, because I can see the boards being prepared, the numbers are being pulled out of the rack. We'll tell you who's got that stop go penalty in just a second, but let's go down to the pit lane. Johnny Palmer's there once again.
Pit stop just done and dusted in the number 123 car, and Johnny Webster's just got out and handed over to George Adcheed. No, that's not his name at all. Adzed is the correct pronunciation. That's a running joke, apparently.
Apparently so, yeah. Yeah, we like to tease him about it.
Now, your opening stint had everything you just told me, including a slight off.
Slight off up at Senna S's, yeah, on the first lap, which wasn't ideal.
It's quite quick there.
It is, yeah, and obviously the tyres weren't quite warm enough. So, yeah, it took me by surprise.
So, on the grass, opposite lock?
Yeah, a bit of rallycross. So, a bit of rallycross. Just managed to avoid a collision with a car behind me. And managed to get back on track and get back up and regain 4 positions.
And what do you do in terms of kind of clearing your mind and saying, that's done, I've just now got to get my head down to what eventually was a double stint and a red flag? Well, safety car, red flag, like I say, it had everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you just got to get your head down and crack on, really. Just, try and keep back up with the pack. So...
When the safety car comes out, does that cause you a bit of a rethink about, should we do another stop right now?
Yeah, you have to toy with tactics, so the radios come in quite handy. Go out with one tactic, safety cars can always change it, and then you come back in with another. So, yeah, safety cars can potentially where you are, work to your advantage.
And how much did you know then during the red flag, whether things were going to alter, the drive window was going to change? I don't think it has, incidentally.
No, I mean, for us it was just a case of making sure we split the time, so as soon as we got the first opportunity we'd already done the first mandatory stop, so it was just box as early as possible.
And are we going to see similar times now after the change of driver, or are you tending to be the quicker?
George was actually slightly quicker in the sprint race this morning than what we found in testing, so, and he's now got a lighter car because there's only half a tank of fuel, so he's no excuses.
Johnny, good drive so far, and we'll see how your co-driver gets on.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
The 34 car is the car that's getting the stop-go penalty. The black flag is being displayed to it, so that I would think will be for an infringement during its pit stop, which it made a few moments earlier. So it could be for not stopping at 45 degrees, for example, in the pit lane. It could be that, or excess speed in the pit lane might be another explanation for that. But certainly a stop-go penalty for the number 34 car.
There that car is, going up the inside into the turn 1 hairpin, the Hatchett's corner there. Just getting past one of the other cars out there is Toby O'Reilly, the driver from Manchester, and who we said earlier, just in his second race coming through from track days before.
It was parallel to down the pit lane rather than at 45 degrees, I think, so that was the reason for the stop-go penalty for the number 34 car.
Yeah, so he's driving the car that says here was built by Anthony Seddon for Simon Walker-Hanson and David Whitmore, but I don't think they ever raced it, did they? Did they? They may have done once. I can't really remember. There's just something ringing a bell for me, but okay.
I can't quite remember. 87 has been into the pit lane as well, so we've seen Louis Woodward in and go back out again. Anthony Seddon has also been in and gone back out again. We've only got 6 minutes left, so the drivers having to make their second mandatory stops don't have much time left to do so. The treble 7 car is going back out into the race, and I think that's Sam Carrington-Yates getting back into the car then.
Yeah, he said he was going to, whether the day plan changed with the red flag and stuff, but we shall see how quickly that car goes now. Which is Chris Noakes goes back into the race 44 is in, Richard Phillips. Driver's being strapped into the car.
I can see the 34 cars come into the pit lane. I'm not sure if it's stopped in the official penalty area. It's stopped this time. This time at about 60 degrees rather than 45 or sort of parallel.
Does that
but I
even it
don't
out?
think it's stopped in the correct pit box, so the penalty box.
Okay. Potentially not ideal. There's 151, Peter Keane, who was impressive in the first part of this race. He runs 11th in part 2. And he's got a couple of cars around him.
The car that's now first on the road in this race is the Will Abraham number 209 car from Jack Godden in second place. Chris Warburton has made his way up to third place, but we think that Abraham and Godden have probably both got another stop to make. So that is going to leave Warburton out in front. In fact, he's got ahead now of Godden, has the 42 car, and the Godden car's in the pit, so that's why. So that puts Warburton up to second, 6 seconds behind the Abraham car in this second part of the race.
Yeah, Will Abraham, he also hasn't done that much car racing, but he's done Rotax karting before. He had his first race just in November last year at Anglesey, so very little racing for Will Abraham, who was born in the 2000s, so a very young driver there out there.
Yeah. 1:13.07, the best lap of the race. That is to the man that's in the pits at the moment, Jack Godden. So he's gone faster than Sam Carrington-Yates, managing the early part of the race.
I don't think we've had the lap times from the early part of the race on the screen.
That's quite right. So that is just from the second part of the race, beg your pardon.
But yeah, I can't remember what Carrington-Yates managed.
No, beg your pardon. I'm not sure it was any much better than that.
No, it could well be the best, but because I guess he's got a bit less fuel, so the car should be a little bit lighter. But getting percentages, it doesn't make a huge.
209's in, and that is the car from the lead. Then, so that means that Chris Warburton's now leading on the road, and he's got no more stops to make. So he's looking good to win this second part of the race, certainly. And it's then a question of whether the results can be satisfactorily aggregated together from the first and the second parts.
Okay. So pit stop going on. So Paul Abraham are getting to that one down there now, the ex-Fun Cup racer.
There's Louis Woodward. Now he has the 42 car right behind him, and the 42 is Warburton, who we think therefore is going to sort of put a lap here on Woodward. Therefore, trying to anyway. And he's got Anthony Seddon. So you've got 3 quick cars right together there. Woodward and Seddon on the same lap, but Warburton trying to get a lap ahead of both of them now, because they've had to make a stop in this second part of the race, and Warburton in that number 42 car hasn't had to make a stop.
That's going to be an important thing, isn't it? So if Warburton wins this part of the race, the flag will go out to him. So therefore, if he can put a lap on these cars, the aggregate lap number is going to be in a much better place for him compared to his rival. So actually, that's going to be an important thing for him, I would have thought anyway, to make sure he finishes a lap ahead of these two on this part of the race. Yeah.
So they're making their way through Spitfires now. So Warburton already passed Seddon in the number 5 car. He's going to try and get past the number 87 car next. That is Louis Woodward, who's third on the timing screen. So effectively, he will have lapped everyone up to and including third place. Richard Roundel, has he got another stop to make? He stopped quite early, didn't he, Richard Roundel, originally? I don't know if he's made 2 stops though, or not. Still, the 42 car trying to find a way through. I think Woodward is being quite staunch in his defence here. He probably isn't necessarily aware. Well, he may be aware that the 42 car is on a different lap. Warburton is on a different lap. So there's no blue flags, I don't think, which ordinarily there would be. So Woodward, with this similar paced car behind him of Warburton, now trying to find the toe down the Cowell Straight towards Hatchett's hairpin. It's getting to the outside line for the hairpin, but no, tucks back in behind Woodward for the right-hander. So it's still 87 ahead on the road, Louis Woodward, but he's just trying to avoid becoming a lap down to Chris Warburton, number 42.
Yeah, that's right. We've only got a minute till the pit window closes, so if anyone hasn't made their 2 pit stops, they really ought to have done.
Jeremy Woodgate is getting the black flag. Now, is that a stop-go penalty as well? No, it can't, because I can see that board line out. It must be a drive-through penalty that he's serving, which will indicate it's probably for track limits infringements.
Yeah.
So it'll be a drive-through penalty that he'll have to serve.
He was on 15 seconds before, wasn't he, in the first part of the race? Which I don't think showing on our screens. Freddie Taven's been given a penalty in the second part of this race of 5 seconds. And this scrap is showing Seddon now unlapping himself, potentially importantly, to getting past Warburton there on the road up towards Honda Curve. This is quite a frenetic battle, actually. Oh, one car's gone off.
That's the 50 car of Liam Brezitz. Back out into the race he goes. Okay, so we're hearing from the pit lane that in the 209 car, it's Will Abraham who's going to do all of the stints in that car. So Paul Abraham not getting in the car then today. And they are 6th in this second part of the race at the moment. There's the 3 car going in. That'll be for its drive-through penalty, Jeremy Woodgate. We've now got less than 15 minutes to go. The pit lane window is closed. The pit closed board is being shown from the starter's gantry. And so it's now just a 15-minute run to the checkered flag, but an unusual one in that we have this situation whereby we've got cars on different laps and a possible aggregation of the times, and Richard Roundell therefore hasn't made another stop, so possibly he did make his 2 before the red flag.
Looks that way. This is all quite exciting stuff. As through Honda Curve, Louis Woodward was running wide and Antti Seddon was coming down the inside of him. Let's see if we can pick that up down towards Hatchett's. Yeah, Seddon's done it and he's brought Warburton with him. So Louis Woodward has dropped behind these 2 cars on the road. Actually, Warburton might get both of them here because Seddon also runs wide. And yeah, he's done it. Warburton's put a lap on these 2 cars in part 2 of this race.
And I suspect he'll be able to sort of pull away a little bit now he's got through. We'll see if Seddon and Woodward have anything to say about that. A bit further back, some place changes. Peter Keane, you can see, up to 8th position in this second part of the race. Sam Carrington-Yates, who got back into the number 777 car, that car is in 10th position, a lap down and a bit, isn't it, that car now?
Yeah, and he's doing 113s, but not quicker than what Jack Godden did earlier in the 71.
Yeah, Jack Godden in 5th place, so he is only about 5 seconds actually behind Seddon and Woodward, isn't he? So he could try and get ahead of them before the end of the race. Seddon, meanwhile, is going to try and get back ahead of Warburton, I think, going down to Hatchett's. We're watching something else on screen at the moment, but just watching that out of the window. And Seddon's got back through on the road down at Hatchett's ahead of Chris Warburton, who will try and get back through at DeBenny or Spitfires and then DeBenny. But no, he can't quite make that work. Here they come into shot, Josh.
Yeah, they're absolutely together. So a fascinating battle that has broke out here on the racetrack with Louis Woodward right behind. And as you say, Jack Godden, he was 5 seconds behind not long ago. That's less than that now. That is for sure.
And he'll be on a similar pace, if not a slightly quicker pace than these drivers as well.
3 seconds on the last lap he was quicker.
Wow.
Because they are fighting so hard. You said it was 5 seconds, it was only actually a lap ago, isn't it? Now it's sort of 2.5.
Like you say, just about getting your head down, driving as fast as you can in this part of the race when you're not quite clear how it's all going to pan out. Just go as fast as you can. Let's see if the results do get aggregated afterwards. Yes, confirmation that they will be aggregated on the screen, so...
we just don't know the first part of the result.
Yeah, don't know the first part, which is always how it used to be in the old days before we had the sort of rule change that meant you didn't routinely have results aggregated when you had a restart. It really is. Well, here's another race. Watch that one, and then we'll work out what happens afterwards. But you do think here that Chris Warburton's going to be in a strong position if he can get that lap back on Seddon.
Yeah, it's a potentially important thing both ways, isn't it? For Seddon to be in front and get that extra lap, so therefore complete the same number of laps in this part as Warburton. Or an alternatively for Warburton, important to have that one extra lap in part 2 of the race.
Yeah. So 10 3/4 minutes left, roughly, of this second part of the GAZ Shocks 116 Trophy race here at Pembrey. Still 2 more races to come this afternoon for the Sports 1000 and the Clios to round out the weekend here at Pembrey.
Yeah, they should be exciting races, shouldn't they, to include the programme here. So they've had plenty of time to have a think about since their last race.
Yeah.
I should think 2 exciting races to conclude. Well, it's been a frenetic race meeting, hasn't it? 16 races to just a day, which I don't think I've been to a race day with 16 races in one day for a while, let alone with an endurance race during the course of the day.
No, not at all. So plenty of value for spectators that have made their way to Pembrey today, or if you've been watching on the live stream all day, hope you've enjoyed it. Maybe you've been rewarding yourself on Father's Day with a watch of the live stream from Pembrey. And happy Father's Day to all fathers tuning in. So there's Woodward, and he's just ahead now of Jack Godden, and this is for position. And it's for 4th position on our time screens, a lap down, sort of approximately a lap down from the race leader.
Yeah, lapping a very small bit, isn't it, to Chris Warburton. But a good stint here from Jack Godden as they make their way through. And just ahead of the road, there's a couple of cars close together, including the 41 car there, the race car radios machine that is out there with 9 minutes of the race to go. And it's the Taylor car just ahead, Gary Taylor, who shares with Ross Riley. So in this part of the race, this is a battle for 15th and 16th positions. And Gary Taylor, who started racing just last season, and he's 39 years of age last week. So happy birthday to Gary Taylor a week ago.
So about 8 minutes of this race left to go, and there's the 50 car of Liam Brezitz coming through shot there at Benny, and that's Rich Rounder who's in second. Now Jack Godden here, he's behind Louis Woodward still. He's not yet been able to find a way through. They're just coming through Honda now and onto the start finish straight. While they've been battling, they've actually fallen behind Anthony Seddon and Chris Warburton, who are still in that order on the road. Warburton just needing really to nip ahead of Anthony Seddon at some point in the next 7 minutes or so to really help his cause potentially in quite a big way.
Yeah, absolutely right. And there they are, just in front. And then this battle behind that Ian has been describing with Louis Woodward in the 87 and the 71 of Godden. Nose to tail to the left-hand side of the circuit goes Jack Godden, but he can't yet make his way through, but he's giving it a good attempt here in the ex-guest car, but he can't get much closer than this to the back of the car in front.
They're not, you can't. They're lapping the high 114s though, which is about a second and a half or so off the sort of really quick times, so they are slowing each other up. Let's have another word down from the pit lane. Johnny Palmer.
Into the real business part of the race now, and I'm with Mark Sullivan. Potentially another safety car here, Mark. You've got a conversation to be had with your co-driver Sam. I love this because this is the heat of the moment in an endurance race. Mark, you did the middle stint. How was it for you?
Yeah, it was interesting to say the least. The car's understeering, sliding around a lot. had a couple of nice little battles, lost a couple of places and got a couple of places back. But yeah, it's good race, fast track. Yeah, it's good.
I chatted to Sam earlier on. If anything, it's more nervy for you guys when you're out with the car.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you're in the heat of battle, aren't you? And like I say, the car's moving around a lot. It's sliding all over the place. It's a lot trickier on the inside than it looks on the outside, you know.
Sam's doing 114. He's pretty much dead when he gets into, I think, some clear air. But there are cars ahead of him that are in the 116. So are they catchable?
I've got a fly in my eye then. Possibly. I don't think he's going to catch the front runners now. But, you know, as always, Sam will give it as good as he can. I think we might end up possibly get a 5th, something like that, which is okay.
I'll let you get back to the radio. Towards the end of the race, Mark Sullivan in the 777. Can they get in the top 5?
Well, that car that had a spin on the way out of Honda and was there for quite some time has now manoeuvred out of position, so that's good news. So hopefully we'll be green flag running towards the end of the race. Who was it?
Not sure, but just seen on the screen, got a penalty for the leader. Chris Warburton's been given a 5-second track limit penalty.
Well, that's going to complicate things even further with the aggregation of the results, isn't it? Probably makes it even more important that he gets ahead of Anthony Seddon. I'm not sure where he is in relation to Seddon on the road at the moment. Well, there he is. Where is the Seddon car? Is it in front? Is it behind? We can see the 88 car. The Riley and Teddy behind it. Yeah, he's behind the 5 car, and he's fallen away a little bit, if anything, hasn't he, as well? Meanwhile, Jack Godden now has got clear of Louis Woodward, so he's got ahead of Louis Woodward, and now he's got about 5 seconds to try and make up in the remaining 4 minutes to get back on terms with Anthony Seddon, which again could be important here.
Yeah, that's right. And only a few laps of this race to go as well now. So Chris Warburton getting past Anthony Seddon is looking unlikely, I would suggest, because that gap's gone out.
Yeah, it has.
209 here, so that's Will Abraham we heard, didn't we? So for 4th in this part of the race is about to change, because Jack Godden's on the inside there and slots through.
Yeah, so Will Abraham losing the position. Jack Godden going through, and yeah, the chase is on now for Anthony Seddon then, in 3rd place on the road. Over the line we've got Liam Brezitz coming, and also the 40 car as well. That's a car that's got a 15-second penalty for various track limits misdemeanours. That's the 40 car you can see on screen now, doing battle with the 220, which is Austin Browser at this stage of the race. So we'll keep an eye out. There should be 3 minutes to go. See if the checker flag appears on schedule. There's a board going out for 87. It's a stop-go penalty for Louis Woodward now. So he is serving a stop-go penalty, I'm afraid. Well, he might not get the chance to serve that with only less than 3 minutes of the race to go, in which case there'll be a penalty applied after the race. So Louis was just driven past that board now. So we'll see if he comes to a stop at the end of the next lap.
But that, again, could be a race-defining moment, couldn't it? Certainly not going to help his cause.
No, I don't think he's going to be the one that wins this race. We really don't know who is going to win this race. But I don't think it's going to be him now, anyway. Not if he's got a penalty to serve, one way or another.
No, that's absolutely would seem that way. Oh dear!
Oh,
Seddon.
That's Seddon. That's Anthony Seddon. Wow, and he was the one just ahead of Chris Warburton on the road. Now, has he done that all by himself, or was he assisted in some way into that? We just saw Louis Woodward flash past him as well there. So Seddon, who was ahead of Warburton on the road, we presume that he no longer is. We can see out of our commentary box window, in fact, I think the 42 car about to head towards us. He's not quite here yet. The 42 car of Warburton does now come through and is the sort of leading car on the road, and the car behind him now on the road is that of Jack Godden.
So that certainly is a very important moment, wasn't it, when Anthony Seddon went off the road and really lost a lap basically there in his result because of it.
Absolutely. I mean, Warburton's one contender. Jack Godden could be another contender for victory here, potentially. There's Lou Woodward serving his penalty, so we did see the board, and now he's going back out into the race. But that's really compromised his hopes there.
So here is Warburton, who's looking in a nice place. I think we can agree he's got a good chance of winning this aggregate result. So
the Woodward penalty, by the way, that was for a short pit stop.
Okay. So you gain so little, don't you, by doing that in the pits? And
yeah.
In the penalty, you lose all that time and a lot more. So round comes Warburton to start the final lap.
Well, there's no checkered flag this time, so it's only at least one more lap to go.
So
and how far behind is Jack Godden now on the road? Obviously he's a lap or so behind, but only a matter of 3 or 4 seconds behind Warburton.
The other thing for him on the road is he's only a couple of attempts behind Will Abraham for third in part 2 of this race.
Yes. Hadn't he got past him once? I think he had. And is now trying to do so again. I think Godden had got past Abraham previously, so may have made a mistake and fallen back behind. That last lap he did was a slow lap in the 15, so possibly lost that place on the last lap.
Seddon came through in 6th after his spin behind Carrington Yates.
Checker flag's being made ready, so I think it is going to go out this time with the clock having counted down to 0. So Chris Warburton heading into Honda for the final time. We're not sure if this is going to be how the full classification turns out after the results have been aggregated, but he is not quite yet going to come into Honda. He is now. Here he is. It's the 42 car coming through now. So it is Chris Warburton winning on the road in the GAZ 116 trophy race. Second on the road will be Richard Roundel, albeit most of a lap behind. A whole lap behind, but just behind Warburton on the road is the third place car of Will Abraham. Just behind that car in 4th place is Jack Godden. Sam Carrington Yates has got back to 5th in the end in the car that he shared with Mark Sullivan for that second part of the race, ahead of Anthony Seddon, benefiting from Seddon's moment about 3 or 4 minutes from the end. Peter Keane 7th in the 151 car, 8th to the 57 car of Toby Partridge, although he's got a 5-second penalty to be added to his time. 9th to the number 1 car of Richard Lakey, and 10th to number 89 Freddie Tatham. But I think, Josh, we're just going to have to wait and see what the official results are once they've been aggregated. Terry Stevens and the timekeeping team will have their work cut out to get the software to do all of that and produce a final result for the 2 parts that we've had in that GAZ 116 trophy race.
Yeah, so I suspect for those people who are particularly interested in that is to head to the 750 Motor Club website and the 116 trophy part of that later, perhaps today, this evening perhaps, to check what those results will be, because they will be all posted there, like you say.
Yeah, so Chris Warburton heading down into the pit lane. I don't know if Johnny Palmer's going to go down and talk to anybody and after the race. That's a verbal nudge. And he will hopefully catch up with Chris Warburton, Richard Roundel maybe, and Will Abraham. They're as good of people as any to talk to. We'd not heard from them during the course of that race, so it'll be interesting to hear what they've got to say anyway, although there is some doubt over the full classification, which will be hopefully made clear a little bit later on. The GAZ 116 trophy that continues at Silverstone with that 100-mile race next month, and they rejoin the 750 Motor Club bill at Donington Park on the 7th of August.
That's the BMW day, isn't it?
It
at Donington.
Summerfest. So big weekend. There's lots of BMW racing. BMW Car Club are there. There's also the Ultimate BMW race as well, which should be good fun, and lots of BMW Car Club stands, displays, etc. on the infield as well at Donington Park. So that's certainly something that you'll be able to enjoy at Donington Park, in particular if you're a BMW owner.
You can see the cars for our next race already ready to head out on track. But before we do that, we can hear from Johnny Palmer down in the pit lane.
Well, we're trying to make head and indeed tail of this. Clearly, an aggregated race is never a particularly simple thing to follow, but with a 90-minute affair affected by a red flag, you're always going to have that slight complication. As far as the timing screen is concerned, Chris Warburton did win that race, so we should make a beeline for Chris. A little bit of a tattered front right corner, I noticed, but it did the business. And a little provisionally, Chris Warburton, we're going to put that around your neck, purely because of the red flag. I understand it's now going to be an aggregated race, so we're going to have to add the first half to the second half. But the second half was certainly won by you as a solo driver.
Yeah, it was great. I've got to thank Jez and 4040 Motorsport for actually letting me come and use the car this weekend. It's first time jumping in the car on Friday, and then since then they've been working with me to try and improve the car and get the balance better for myself and what I wanted out of it, and it's just been great since. And Jez made a great call as soon as he saw the car crash on the pit lane to come in and do the second pit stop before the safety car boards went out, which then allowed us to actually then get that extra pit stop before everybody else.
I think it was the guy making those calls that I had a quick chat with, and somebody in the team said, you need to make your waves in Formula One next. Here he is, in fact. Maybe so, yes. Very happy down here, and it was all about, as explained to me at the time, getting you in just before. I mean, you couldn't have predicted that safety car.
No, we couldn't have, and it was just luckily with the guys being on the pit wall and having the radio in the car, which was a late addition that we made this morning. It was just a great thing to do, and it was well done and to the team, and the car's been great throughout the race, and we were matching the others on the pace, and that was also good compared to where we were on Friday.
Congratulations. It is a little provisional at the moment, and it might be a case of paying attention to the 750 Motor Club Live website for the standings. Complicated affair, I think you'll agree, but we'll move on now with the next race here at Pembrey.